Hi there. My name's Jack. Today, I'll tell you about each 45 presidents of the United States. So, let's get started. The first president is George Washington. He's the father of our country. He's the only president to not live in the White House. He was in office to 1789 to 1797. The second president is John Adams. He was George Washington's vice president. He was in office to 1797 to 1801. The third president is Thomas Jefferson. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. He was in office to 1801 to 1809. The fourth president is James Madison. He never had a son. He fought the War of 1812. He was in office to 1809 to 1817. The fifth president is James Monroe. He was a Democrat and a Republican. He was in office to 1817 to 1825. The sixth president is John Quincy Adams. He's the son of the second president, John Adams. He was in office to 1825 to 1829. The seventh president is Andrew Jackson. He was the U.S. Senator of Tennessee. He was in office to 1829 to 1837. The eighth president is Martin Van Buren. He was also the eighth vice president of the United States. He was in office to 1837 to 1841. The ninth president is William Henry Harrison. He was in office to just March of 1841. Wanna know why? Because he died in office. He didn't get much done. The 10th president is John Tyler. He was William Henry Harrison's vice president. He was in office to 1841 to 1845. The 11th president is James K. Polk. He's the 9th governor of Tennessee. He was in office to 1845 to 1849. The 12th president is Zachary Taylor. He was the Major General of the 1st Infantry Regiment, United States Army. He was in office to 1849 to 1850. He was the second president to die in office. The 13th president is Millard Fillmore. He was Zachary Taylor's vice president. He was in office to 1850 to 1853. The 14th president is Franklin Pierce. He was the Brigadier General of the 9th Infantry United States Army. He was in office to 1853 to 1857. The 15th president is James Buchanan. He was the United States Minister to the Court of St. James. He was the only president to not get married. He was in office to 1857 to 1861. The 16th president is Abraham Lincoln. He freed the slaves. He was in office to 1861 to 1865. He was assassinated during a play. He was shot by John Wilkes Booth. The 17th president is Andrew Johnson. He was Abraham Lincoln's vice president. He was in office to 1865 to 1869. The 18th president is Ulysses S. Grant. He was the commanding general of the U.S. Army. He was in office to 1869 to 1877. The 19th president is Rutherford B. Hayes. He was the 29th and 32nd governor of Ohio. He was in office to 1877 to 1881. The 20th president is James A. Garfield. He was the U.S. representative for Ohio's 19th district. He was in office to just the year 1881. He was the fourth president to die in office. The 21st president is Chester A. Arthur. He was James A. Garfield's vice president. He was in office to 1881 to 1885. The 22nd and 24th president is Grover Cleveland. He was the 28th governor of New York. He was in office to 1885 to 1889. On his second term, he was in office to 1893 to 1897. The 23rd president is Benjamin Harrison. He was the U.S. Senator of Indiana. He is also the grandson of the 9th president, William Henry Harrison. He was in office to 1889 to 1893. The 25th president is William McKinley. He was the 39th governor of Ohio. He was in office to 1897 to 1901. He was the 5th president to die in office. Finally, my favorite president. The 26th president is Theodore Roosevelt. He was William McKinley's vice president. He is also a hunter. He was in office to 1901 to 1909. The 27th president is William Howard Taft. He was the 42nd United States Secretary of War. I believe that he cannot fit in a bathtub. He was in office to 1909 to 1913. The 28th president is Woodrow Wilson. He took us into World War I. He was the 34th governor of New Jersey. He was in office to 1913 to 1921. The 29th president is Warren G. Harding. He was the U.S. Senator from Ohio. He was in office to 1921 to 1923. He was the 6th president to die in office. The 30th president is Calvin Coolidge. He was Warren G. Harding's vice president. He was in office to 1923 to 1929. The 31st president is Herbert Hoover. He became president when the stock market crashed. He was also the United States Secretary of Commerce. He was in office to 1929 to 1933. The 32nd president is Franklin D. Roosevelt. He elected 4 terms. He is also the 44th governor of New York. He was in office to 1933 to 1945. He was the 7th president to die in office. The 33rd president is Harry S. Truman. He was Franklin D. Roosevelt's vice president. He was in office to 1945 to 1953. The 34th president is Dwight D. Eisenhower. He was the Supreme Allied Commander of Europe. He was in office to 1953 to 1961. The 35th president is John F. Kennedy. He was the U.S. Senator from Massachusetts. He was in office to 1961 to 1963. He was shot in Dallas, Texas by Lee Harvey Oswald. The 36th president is Lyndon B. Johnson. He was John F. Kennedy's vice president. He was in office to 1963 to 1969. The 37th president is Richard M. Nixon. He was Dwight D. Eisenhower's vice president. He was in office to 1969 to 1974. He resigned because he told a lie. The 38th president is Gerald R. Ford. He was Richard Nixon's vice president. He was also a football player. He was in office to 1974 to 1977. The 37th president is Jimmy Carter. He was the 76th governor of Georgia. He was in office to 1977 to 1981. The 40th president is Ronald Reagan. He was the 33rd governor of California. He was also a movie star. He was in office to 1981 to 1989. The 41st president is George H. W. Bush. He was Ronald Reagan's vice president. He was in office to 1989 to 1993. The 42nd president is Bill Clinton. He was the 40th and 42nd governor of Arkansas. He was in office to 1993 to 2001. The 43rd president is George W. Bush. He was the 46th governor of Texas. He is also the son of the 41st president, George H. W. Bush. He was in office to 2001 to 2009. The 44th president is Barack Obama. He was the U.S. Senator of Illinois. He is the first African American president. He was in office to 2009 to 2017. And finally, the 45th and current president is Donald Trump. He was the chairman of the Trump Organization. He's in office to 2017 to the future. Well, that was all the 45 presidents of the United States of America. Thanks for watching. And let me know who was your favorite president in the comments down below. Goodbye.